But boss, I gotta say though, when I came on board, Schrader was my teammate.
That was a bad influence.
So I got to hear a lot of stories and learn from him.
Well, I can tell you going with Schrader.
You sure you remember?
I think I do.
All right.
I think I was out at Topeka. That was on like a Saturday or Friday. That night, Kenny Schrader decided to take Dale out on the town. And he went to one of these adult establishments, and I guess you weren't old enough to go in, so Schrader got the entertainment, come out to the bus. And I didn't know anything about it, but I happened to be on the grid the next day when your dad flew in.
You and him both flew in that day.
Yeah. And he walked up to me, he used to get you by your collar, and he said, "I'm going to kill Schrader."
But I told him, don't look at your dad the next day on the airplane. Don't look at him. For sure, don't breathe on him. And don't fess up to nothing.
I don't know how he found out. I went as far away as I possibly could from where he was on like race morning. And I was just sitting there on a tire, with, just trying to hide. And Dad come out there and looked at me and then just turned around and walked off. And then he turned Schrader the next week. I mean, he ran over him 4 or 5 more times after that. I think Schrader said they didn't talk for years. He was pretty hot.
Was he?
Yeah.
The next year, I called him and said, hey, we're going to Topeka again. He said, yeah. I said, think Dale Jr. can go? He said, no. I said, what about Kelly? She didn't get to go either.
It was worth every minute of it. It's the greatest week ever. Yeah, Kenny took good care of me. We had a lot of fun.
I came up here to do an appearance for, I'm not going to tell you who it was for, but anyhow, I was giving rides around the racetrack to these people. Did I ever tell you this story?
No.
I was giving rides around the racetrack to these people. And what they would do, we were in the pace car, and whoever won the contest could come and bring 2 friends with them. And so there was this girl that came, and she was gay. Okay, she was gay. So she brought 2 of her friends with her. And so we got in the car, and we're riding around the racetrack, and it's been raining, the racetrack's slick, and I'm about half sideways and stuff. And the girl in the back seat says, I'm just going to pick a name because I don't want to use the names. Said, Brenda, tell Kyle what you were going to tell him. And she says, no, I can't say that. That would embarrass me. And Brenda said, no, and the girl in the back seat said, no, Brenda, tell Kyle what you were going to tell him. He'll like it. So she looked straight at me as I'm driving around the racetrack, and she said, faster, faster, Kyle Petty. Bet you never thought you'd hear that from a did you? True story. Favorite Bristol memory.
There are pictures that document Junior Johnson running the modifieds on the beach course in Daytona, on the old road and the beach course, of Junior's modified flipping through one of the corners. Well, Junior is standing outside of the race car on the racetrack, and the car's still flipping. That's documented. That's a fact. I've seen the pictures, and I've seen him standing there watching that car still rolling. How he got out of it, nobody ever knows. But Junior called me one afternoon. He says, I got a friend that wants you to go down to Charleston with me and open up a parts house he's got down there. And I said, his name was McNeil, Gwen McNeil. And he said, we'll pick you up in Timorsville, the little old dirt strip there. And sometime of the day we're going down and do the thing, come back. And I said, all right, that'll be fine. So Junior and McNeil flew in that afternoon. I got in the airplane, brand new airplane. I mean, a beautiful twin-engine Piper, and went down to the opening for the new store down there. Everything went great. Coming back, it was dark, and had been raining a little bit. And McNeil lined up. He was an airline pilot, and he lined up for the little old strip in Timorsville. Been flying in and out of there since I was 15 years old, and that's where my airplane was, and I knew it like the back of my hand. It was about 3,000-foot grass strip, and McNeil lined up to come in there, and I said, Junior was in the back, and I was sitting in the co-pilot seat, and McNeil was flying it. So I said, Mac, I said, you're a little bit high, and you need to go around. A little bit too high, a little bit too fast. Oh, no, I got it made. So he kept on coming. I said, Mac, I said, you're a little bit high and you're a little bit too fast. I said, you need to go around. I said, ain't nobody here but us. This is a short place. You don't know it. It's not embarrassing to go around one time, you know. Oh, no, I'm going to make it. Well, I knew we wasn't going to make it, but I couldn't do nothing about it. And came down, we was about halfway down that grass strip, still running about 150 miles an hour and still 10 feet off the ground. Wasn't no way you could get it stopped if you got it on the ground. So finally, he just planted it on the ground. They had some construction bulldozers and stuff sitting out there, and the plane turned sideways, and we was running 150 miles an hour sideways, headed towards a great big old hangar. And those bulldozers, that bulldozer looked like hotels out there, didn't it, Junior? Went by that thing. But finally, the gear broke out from under it, the wing folded up under it, and the dust was flying, and it finally stopped. Junior Johnson was standing in the middle of the airstrip before that airplane ever stopped, and he was in the back. That's the true story, file. And he was already out of that airplane, came out of the back, already out of the airplane, standing in the middle of the airstrip before everything ever quit turning over. So how he got out of that race car in Daytona and how he got out of that airplane in Timminsville, I don't know. But he did.
So, Junior, how did you get out?
How'd you do it, Junior?
Huh? How'd you do it?
First at Daytona.
He was opening the door and getting out and says, "Come on, Junior, get out of this thing, go catch the fire." I said, "Get over here, Warren."
That's the truth. You stand right there in the middle of the road.
So anyway, in this race, there's two parts of this story. We changed our right front spring once in practice, and Paul will appreciate this because he's a crew chief and a car guy. But in order to put a right front spring in, you got to lower the suspension down, and these cars have brake lines in them, and it's flexible brake line. But the way the spring went in, the brake line was too short and it broke. So we changed the spring, and I went out on the track. And about that time, the yellow came out for practice. Somebody wrecked, and it was right at the end of practice. And so practice got canceled right there. But I was already out on the line. And for those of you that have been to Charlotte and know how that works, at the end of nationwide practice, Cup qualifying begins. And so for whatever reason, I don't remember exactly why, instead of doing a lap around the track and return to the garage, everybody did like this half lap backwards down that quarter-mile track they have at Charlotte. Well, I didn't realize I didn't have any brakes. So we grabbed like second or third gear. We're going like 65 mile an hour backwards around this racetrack. And I make this right-hander into the quarter mile. And the whole Cup field's there for qualifying. I mean, the whole Cup field. And I'm going like 60 mile an hour. And I go to hit the brakes. Nothing. And all I can see is all these people, all these cars, and Jeff Gordon's cars right in front of me. I got no brakes, and I'm out of control. So I make this hard lap and go through the infield, and I'm just tear this car all up. And the record driver comes and gets me, and he yells in the window in this very southern voice, you know, a couple obscenities with basically saying, "What were you doing?" And I'm like, "I didn't have any brakes." So as it would happen, we replaced that brake line with another brake line that just happened to be even shorter and broke in the race. So we get in the race, and we do this first run in the race. And I'm running pretty good. I'm running like 15th or 20th, which, again, for where I was at in my career was great. You know, it was awesome. That was all I could ask for. And there's a green flag pit cycle. And getting ready for the green flag pit cycle, and I push the brakes. We're halfway through the run, and the brake line breaks off this car. And so this car won't stop. So we talk about it for 15, 20 laps. And we're talking about, well, when this green flag pit stop comes, you know, we're going to have to get the car stopped because the car's not going to stop. You know, it's got no brakes. And we get on pit road, and I go to pull into my pit stall. And everybody jumps across the wall, jack in hand, everything. And everyone forgot that I had no brakes, and I just right through the pit stall. So I go, this is in the middle of green flag pit stops. So I'm like 20 boxes down, no brakes. So the whole crew runs over and starts to push the car backwards. And I get Joey spotting the whole time, and Joey's over the rail going, "Oh, my God," you know, and Joey's real exaggerated about it. And we finally they're pushing my car backwards really, really fast. And I get 5 stalls away, and they're pushing me backwards. And they do like this push-off motion, like a bobsled. And so what happens? I still have no brakes. So I'm going down pit road at what feels like 35 mile an hour. I know a human being can only run like 10 or 15, but it felt like this car was going 35 mile an hour. Backwards, under green, in the middle of green flag pit stops, no brakes. And of course, so what happens? I go flying through pit box backwards and almost up on the racetrack backwards. And my dad comes over the radio at that moment and goes, "What part of no brakes don't you understand?" And he just goes off on these crew guys. And for me and for Joey, that was one of those moments where we bonded together and just have told that story. And Joey's been with me almost ever since. So that's how far Joey and I have come together. But we still tell that story all the time. So now you know the story.